Hello, my name is Francesca Finelli, and I am the Associate Director of Graduate Career Development at the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. And you are watching part 2 of Module 1 about cover letters. Hopefully you've watched the first video about creating an effective resume, and now we're going to be learning about or talking about how to write a strong cover letter. So first, I want to start with today's presentation goals, or what I hope you walk away with after watching this video. The first is learn how cover letters are used by hiring managers and if you need to write one. This is probably the question I get asked the most often during one-on-one career advising appointments. Do I even need to write a cover letter? What's the purpose? So hopefully you'll get some standard guidelines so that you know when or when not to write a cover letter. And also I'd like you to understand how to create a tailored cover letter that will get you an interview. Tailoring materials are very important, particularly within cover letters. Cover letters allow you the space to write a little bit more about your career narrative, tell more about your skills and your experience. And the goal of a cover letter is to prove to an employer that you have the skills and the experience necessary to complete the job. The purpose of the cover letter is to prove that to the employer through more eloquent writing, let's say, than just bullet points on a resume. Please do note that the focus of this presentation is for jobs outside of academia, so that would be in industry. If you have questions about a cover letter for an academic role, please do speak with your department, as well as you could set up an appointment with a GSAS Compass staff member in a career advising appointment and go over a cover letter as well for an academic position, as well as for non-academic roles. Great, so I wanted to start with a quote because I think this really speaks to the purpose of a cover letter. So the quote is, "I'd like to call cover letters the gateway to getting an interview. It's your unique story. Tell your narrative through your experiences. Be genuine, honest, and stay away from cliches like team player. Instead, talk about situations where you prove to be all of those things." And that is a quote from the head of people operations at Teach for All. And this was something that she shared with me and I put in all of my presentations about cover letters, because I think it really does speak to the reasons as to why we write cover letters. The purpose is to tell a story and a narrative, and to talk about and prove that you have experience with maybe certain skills. And so instead of just saying, "I'm a team player," you have to back it up with an experience or tell about an experience of when you've used those skills in team building. So as I mentioned, the first question is, do I need to write a cover letter? The answer is, it truly depends. I see cover letters as it's changing. It's rapidly changing. And I see companies asking for cover letters less often. So there are a couple of things. First, when do you need to write a cover letter? If a position requires a cover letter, you have to write a cover letter. If it says it's required, if it has a place for you to upload it and it has an asterisk next to it saying it's required, you got to upload a cover letter, right? Or perhaps it's a job that you really want and a cover letter is optional. Why not go ahead and show that you've gone the extra mile by writing a really persuasive cover letter? So cover letters I see most often are really used at mission-driven organizations. So these would be maybe nonprofits. I was just meeting with a student today and we were talking about writing a cover letter for a role at an animal justice nonprofit. And so it was really mission-driven work. And that was something that she really featured in her cover letter, is the reason why, she had become a vegan. So that's the time that you would probably want to write a cover letter. Or you'd want to write a cover letter for roles that require a lot of communication, a lot of writing. Often when you apply for a job that requires you to draft correspondence or to be someone who's going to communicate or present information to others, they don't ask for a writing sample. They ask for a cover letter. That's the writing sample right there. And so I see cover letters less often asked for when you don't have to write a cover letter is when it's not required for the position. And this is often in really skill heavy roles, such as maybe a data analyst, data scientist, or at maybe a finance or a tech company. I have a friend who is a recruiter who works in tech, and she says that she never asks for cover letters because it's just not important. She hopes to get the person's narrative when they do an interview. So again, there's different times, and I think the most relevant or the thing that you really need to look for when you're deciding if you need to write a cover letter or not is if the job requires it. And then if it's not required, but it's optional and it's your dream job or something that you're really, really interested in, then make sure that you write that cover letter. So before you start writing, just as with all work with career, it really starts with self-reflection. So the first thing is a little or self-reflection as well as research. So the first step is researching the employer. So learn about the organization so you can articulate why you are a good fit for that company in your cover letter. Usually that information is in the first paragraph or in the last paragraph of your cover letter. So do some research. I've had students who applied to consulting firms and they get in depth with the reasons why they want to work for this employer. That consulting firm might have published white papers on a certain topic or listed information about a certain case study on their website. And they talk about that, how they're really interested in their new approach to this one topic. So the more specific you are with the reasons for why you want to work with the employer, the more you will wow them. Employers want someone working for them who really wants to be there and has knowledge of them as an organization. So show that you've done your research. And I know all of you can do research because you are in either an MA or a PhD program here at GSAS. So use those research skills and find out some information about why you want to work with that employer. Then try and find a specific contact to write to. Sometimes this is really hard, but if you can do a little bit of internet research again and find someone, it looks so good on a cover letter to be able to address it to a very specific person. You can use LinkedIn for this purpose. So go to a company website and find maybe an HR manager working there, or you can go to a company's website. That might be even easier. Look at their list of employees. I've written cover letters to CEOs of companies before. I know that that CEO will probably never read my cover letter and application, but I address it to them because it shows that I've done my research and I know who's running the company, and that will look good to an HR manager. I've shared this information with many students, and often students give me a lot of pushback and say, I just don't feel comfortable doing that. So if you don't feel comfortable writing to, CEO, at XYZ Corporation, then that's fine. But if you can find a specific name, do use it. If you can't, I always like to say, dear company team. So company name team, instead of to whom it may concern. That's really old and stuffy. Or you can say, dear hiring manager. Either of those work. Next is analyzing the job description. So reading the job description really closely is the first place to start. So identify the necessary skills, qualifications for the job. Also, notice when words are repeated. Those are keywords. So you want to make sure that those keywords are listed in your cover letter and your resume. And then finally, as I mentioned, at the start of this slide, it requires some self-reflection. So now that you have a clear understanding of the responsibilities and the skills required in this job, think back to your own experiences and think about times when you've either maybe performed some of the duties that the job is requiring, or times when you have, let's say a position is looking for someone who's able to collaborate. Just as we saw in that quote at the beginning of the presentation, you really want to highlight times that you've worked in collaboration with others. You want to show people, not just tell them. So think about classes, projects, work experiences, internships, volunteer experiences, activities, or maybe even travel that prove to the employer that you have those skills necessary. So cover letter writing is very cut and dry. It's very formulaic. It is not exciting writing. It is not flowery writing. It is writing to prove a point, and something that should be very easy to read and easy to skim, because employers spend maybe 3 minutes total looking at an entire application. So it should be very, very clear and very easy to read, and it should follow this format. So start with an introduction. That's the first paragraph. And in that, you want to mention the position you're applying to. So, dear, Francesca Finelli, let's say you're applying to a position and I'm the contact. I'm writing to apply for the position of Assistant Director of Employer Relations. So mention right away, what position are you applying to? Don't make it a mystery, just let them know right away. And then where you found the job, often that's helpful to know. So is it on the company website? Did someone mention it to you? So if you have a connection at that company, or someone told you to apply to a job, or you've had an informational interview or networked with someone who works at that company, you can mention that, and you should mention that right up at the introduction. The introduction is so important to get this information there, because you want to excite someone and make sure that they keep on reading. So if you have a contact at that company, make sure to include it. Then also you want to have a quick summary of who you are, which includes your education or years of experience. Again, you're trying to make the person excited enough to continue reading the letter. They'll say, okay, so if the position requires 2 years of experience and a master's degree, if you put that right in the top paragraph, they'll say, oh yes, this person's qualified, let me keep on reading. And then express your interest in working for the company by demonstrating that you've done your research, as we mentioned before, that internet research. So mention why you're interested in working for that organization right within the first paragraph of that cover letter. And then I always like to end the first paragraph with a statement of confidence. So that could be something like, I am certain that my experience in career advising students at Columbia University would make me a very qualified candidate for the role of Director of Career Advising, right? So I'm right away saying, I'm sure that my experience will make me a qualified candidate. I think that this is very American. This is something that confidence is really important in the interviewing and the application process in America. And I know that not all students feel comfortable with kind of this confidence. I wouldn't consider it bragging if you're just saying I'm confident in something. Because you're also basing it on facts. I have so many years of experience, or I have this education. These are just things you're telling someone. And if you say you're confident in them, then the person will think, oh yes, I want someone who's confident. I want them to come work for me, right? So again, I understand that this is very American, but it is confidence, and showing confidence is important to the job search process in the United States. All right, so the next 2 paragraphs, usually 2 to 3 paragraphs. I've seen some cover letters that have 3 body paragraphs. These are kind of the meat of the cover letter. If we're talking about a hamburger, again, something that's very American, you have the bun, which is the introduction, bun on the bottom, which is the conclusion. You have the meat in the center with the body paragraphs. So what do you want to do in these body paragraphs? Basically, these are highlights of your experiences and qualifications that are relevant to the position. So remember, you've done this work, you've done research on the company, you've read the job description very closely, you've analyzed your own background, and now is time to talk about those experiences that relate to that job. So you want to, as we mentioned, cite very specific examples of when you used particular skills. So I try to avoid restating your resume. So don't use the exact same phrases in bullet points that you've put on your resume in bullet points in your cover letter. Try to tell either new stories or present information in new ways. And I always suggest to students that you organize your body paragraphs in one of 2 ways. Either you organize it around experience, or you organize it around skills. So if you're organizing a paragraph around your experience, I might say, during my time working as Associate Director of Graduate Career Development at GSAS, I did XYZ, which shows that I have skills in ABC. And then I talk about other things that I've done in my current role and what skills those show. Again, it's very plain and very to the point writing. You never want to have someone read between the lines. It's very clear to say, I have these skills, I've done these things. And so I could organize certain many skills in one paragraph because it's organized around one experience. Or the other option is to talk about, I have strong research skills. And then you talk about maybe 1 or 2 instances when you show the reader that you've used those research skills. So I have strong research skills. For example, when writing my dissertation, I did X, Y, Z. Also, I've worked as a research assistant for, in a certain lab for XYZ years, and I've done this type of research. So it's either organizing around experiences or around skills. That way it keeps your reader focused and helps them to, and it helps to create a very clear cover letter, one that's easy to read and one that's easy to follow. And then communicate how your skills and experience would be valuable to that employer. So I've seen a lot of cover letters that kind of go into a great deal of background about the person and why they're applying, and also how this job might benefit them. And that's great because it does show interest, but really, I think the purpose of a cover letter is to show I'm qualified to do this job. And so the goal of a cover letter is not to tell them about how this job will benefit you, but rather to tell the employer about how hiring you will benefit them. So I usually like to end my paragraphs around maybe a certain skill to say, as you can see, my background in research, or I hope to bring my skills in research to your company, something like that. My strong skills in research to your company. So again, you're kind of bringing it back to them. How are you going to impact their organization? And then finally, make sure to highlight durable skills. These are known as soft skills, but I like to use the term durable skills. So these are skills like communication, leadership, taking direction from a manager, time management, being able to work in fast-paced environments. These are skills that will help you and serve you well over the course of your career. So these are durable skills. Time-sensitive skills are ones that maybe like coding. As everyone knows, you might learn certain coding skills or coding languages, but then after a couple of years, they often become obsolete. So a durable skill, such as communication, is one that will really help you throughout your career. And it's hard to sometimes highlight these durable skills on a resume because we have a skills section on a resume, but it might just be our hard skills that we know, or those time-sensitive skills, such as knowing Excel or Microsoft or things like that. Whereas you don't have a section that says, I have skills in communication, right? So a cover letter is often the place to really highlight your durable skills. And then finally, our conclusion. So you want to thank the reader for their time and consideration, reaffirm your interest in the position. So again, you could bookend this by saying, I want to work here because of XYZ. I also want to work at this organization because of ABC. So maybe citing something else that makes you excited about the role. You want to re-emphasize why you want to work there. So as something, as I mentioned previously, and why you would be a good fit. And then finally, offer contact information and list what you have attached. So if you're sending one PDF, you could say, I've also enclosed my resume or a list of my references. And then again, as I mentioned, be confident. And you can always say, like, I look forward to hearing from you in the future, or I look forward to receiving more information about this role. Something like that is always a nice way to end. You can say sincerely and then sign your name. So let's look at a sample now, because I think it's really important to talk about tailoring. And I want to look at a sample that has been tailored to a specific job description. This is again from Imagine PhD. And so the links to Imagine PhD are actually listed within Courseworks underneath this video. So you'll be able to find them. So Imagine PhD, we're looking at a role in research and analysis. The resume video went over the resume in response to this job description. So now we're going to look at the cover letter. And so we're looking again at a a researcher position at Frameworks Institute, which is a nonprofit. And as you can see here, Imagine PhD has really done the work for you. They've analyzed the job description. They have highlighted specific information you should focus on, given you bubbles as to why you should focus on those things, giving you a little bit more information. And then it's also bolded certain information that you want to make sure that you're really highlighting. So as you can see here, they're looking for someone to advance the resolution of social problems. They need to collect data, analysis, interpretation, reports, significant experience using a range of research methods, able to distill, interpret complicated research findings. And then again, they said interpret findings, integrate research findings. So just a really quick overview of this. Again, you can visit Imagine PhD and read the whole job description. So here's the cover letter. So it's always nice to include the contact information of the institute or the organization that you're writing to. So again, it shows that you've really tailored this material for them. And then also, so they go with Dear Sir or Madam. I prefer kind of this like less stuffy version saying Dear, company name team, or, I've seen all different beginnings. Or again, try and find a specific name. Again, go to a website. Sometimes a job listing will actually say this position reports to manager of communications. You go to the website, you find the manager of communications, you write your cover letter to that person. So here we go, opening statement, right? I'm writing regarding the role of researcher at Frameworks Institute. And then they say, my keen interest in applied uses of research, so again, applying research, and commitment to your mission of resolving social problems drives my interest in applying. Why do you want to work there? And then a little bit about you and why you're qualified. The skills in research analysis and communication I've acquired in and beyond academic settings prepares me for this position, confidence, and I am excited to contribute this background to your goals. How are you going to make an impact at this company? My research focus and policy knowledge makes me a strong match for this position, statement of confidence. My PhD analyzed the contemporary history of US immigration policy through various research methods, oral interviews, surveys, literature reviews, data analysis, so on and so forth. In the process, so they're telling me what you did, and now I'm getting what skills you've learned. So being very, very forthright in this process. In this process, I gained through proficiency with both qualitative and quantitative methods and strong knowledge of how different messages can be harnessed to influence policy decisions, a perspective that aligns with strategic frame analysis. That was a keyword from that job description. So this is what I did. This is what I learned. This is how it applies to you. I have also gained applied experience with social issue campaigns. So again, very mission-driven organization. How do your values align with that of the company's? And then again, so this person is organizing their paragraphs around skills. So research focus and policy knowledge. So those are the skills. And then the second paragraph is about, in addition to my research abilities, I have possessed strong communication and collaborative skills. And these are durable skills. And now this paragraph is going to be all about this person's durable skills. So they said, I have these skills, and then proves them through specific experiences. And then finally, through this work, I have been motivated to foster clinical analysis and learning that will drive social improvement. Framework's mission aligns with my goals, and I am excited to contribute my strengths in research and analysis to its projects. Thank you for your consideration. And then signed by the person. Really short, to the point, well written, easy to read, proving skills, showing skills in action, and just as we mentioned, really followed all those guidelines that I showed in my presentation. So at this point, that ends our presentation on cover letters. If you have specific questions about cover letters, or maybe want us to take a look over a cover letter that you've written, please do make an appointment at GSAS Compass portal and request a 30-minute cover letter review with one of the GSAS Compass staff members. We're happy to provide feedback. The best way to make an appointment is or the best use of your time, I would say, is make an appointment, have a cover letter, upload it into the My Application Materials portion of your profile. And then when you make the appointment, put the job description in the student comment section so that we can read the job description before we meet with you and read your cover letter. And then once I have the job description in my mind, I'll think about how closely it aligns with your cover letter. So do have a job description, even if you don't, let's say it's just a job description you're interested in applying to. You don't have to actually apply for it if you just want to do an exercise in writing a cover letter. It's just nice to have a very specific job description to write in response to, now that you know the basics of writing a cover letter. I hope that this video has helped. The next video in this session is about converting your CV to a resume, or you can move on to the next module, which will be discussing networking, everyone's favorite topic. All right, thank you so much. And I hope that these tips help you write a very strong cover letter.